to Inner Peace Better Health, where we explore the layers of wellness that society often skips over. Today's guest is Karen Bigman, a certified sexuality educator and the bold voice behind the Taboo to Truth, Life and Sex After 50. After a personal awakening post divorce, Karen made it to her mission to challenge the silence around sex in the midlife and beyond. Because let's be honest, again, aging doesn't mean desire disappears. It just means the conversation needs to grow up with us. And Karen is here to lead that conversation with truth, with warmth, and with zero shame. So, welcome, Karen. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
And also, Karen, what led you to believe that midlife sexuality wasn't just worth exploring, it was worth spotlighting?
As I aged, as I got closer to 60, I started to hear conversations mostly around menopause. And what I saw primarily was a lot of shame and embarrassment, and the idea that, particularly with women, that we were washed up, that we're done, we're past our childbearing years, and therefore we're no longer sexual. And I started to reflect on my own journey, and I'm quite an open and honest person. I've spent most of my life in New York City. I'm not shy, and the conversation was always easy for me to have with my friends, but I saw it get quieter on one hand, for women, and yet this conversation around menopause was starting to go into the media. And so I just said, "Well, if I know what my journey has been and I know that I talked to my friends about it, why can't I just talk to everybody about it?" And so I just started a podcast about almost 2 years ago now. I'm past my 100th episode, and, the more I talk about it, the more people wanna hear. They don't always wanna let you know that they're listening, but there's a lot of people lurking and trying to understand, and they may be ashamed to speak about it, but they want to know the information. And so if I meet somebody socially, as soon as I, especially interestingly, especially men, and I tell them what I do, they can't wait to talk to me about what's going on in their relationship and their sex life. And so I think I feel called to do this. It's the most passionate work I've done in my life, and, I just think we should all know that sex is not something that you just do when you're young.
Yes. That's so beautiful, and thank you for sharing this with us. And also, was there a moment when you realized that silence was more harmful than any taboo?
Interesting question. Um, I think I it's not a moment, I hear it continuously. I hear a lot of women just don't even wanna talk about it. They give up. They admit that they're no longer interested, or that sex is painful, or even the men that are in long-term relationships, they sort of give up on the whole conversation. And it makes me sad because especially, in midlife, especially when you're no longer worried about getting pregnant, there's so much joy and beauty and sensuality that you can start to explore. And the fact that people are hiding, um, it just makes it that much harder. I had a friend, who follows me on LinkedIn, and he said, "I love your posts, but I don't want to like them because I don't want people to know that I'm following you." And I think maybe that was a moment when I said, like, why would you be embarrassed? But people are.
Yes. And I think that is so relatable that how many of people have quietly wondered if it is too late to feel alive again in that way. And also, what are some of the most common myths or fears people have around sex after 50?
I think, the biggest one is that it's done, and unfortunately, at least here in the States, the medical system on to some level endorses that. It's like, I've heard so many women who will come in to the doctor complaining about something, and it's one of those conversations they're even embarrassed to have, and doctors will say, "Well, you've had your children, you don't need it anymore." So I think that's the first one, is that we don't need sex anymore. That if you're having issues with sex, whether it's a man having erectile dysfunction, or a woman having, issues with dryness or pain, that's can't be solved, and that this is how it's always gonna be, and so we're gonna give up. And I have friends where they have all the information. And I find this particularly with women that if even if they know there's something to fix it, they put themselves last and they don't take care of it. So there's almost no sexual dysfunction that cannot be solved in some way. People with disabilities are able to be sexual. So like major disabilities, paraplegics, there are so many things that can be done. So if you are having issues, you are it's incumbent on you to enjoy the rest of your life and to find a practitioner who is going to help you feel better and enjoy your sex life.
Yes, that's so wonderful. And also, how do those beliefs shape the way we show up, not just only in bed, but in relationships or in self esteem?
I th- I think hmm, one of the ways, and I'm gonna to flip it to the positive, is that once you are able to talk about it, once you're able to explain, to know your own body and to explain to your partner what brings you pleasure, you open up this first of all, you open up a line of communication. I used to be a divorce coach, and I always said if you can talk about money and you can talk about sex, then you have a really good chance at having a good relationship because those are the hardest conversations for us to have. So once you open the conversation, sometimes your partner will be embarrassed and just say, "I don't wanna hear about it," but you've planted a seed, and now it will come back around at some point and, "Well, remember we were talking about that thing?" And once you can start to say, "Well, I love you," or even if it's not a love relationship, "I want to be in a sexual relationship with you." These are the things that will make it a good sexual relationship for me. These are the boundaries that you can cross. These are the ones that you can't. These are the guidelines. These are the things that make me feel good. These are the things that hurt. Take a lesson from gay and people who live in more of a different or kinky lifestyle. When, as I understand it, when a non-heterosexual couple gets together, it's as a heterosexual couple, we know what's gonna happen. We go into the bedroom, ultimately, we're gonna end up at some point with, can I say intercourse here? I don't know what the guidelines are. So we know that's where we're gonna end up, right? But when a gay couple gets together, they have a different way of enjoying their sexual experiences, so they have the conversation up front. When a kinky couple gets together, they have a conversation up front. What are the things that you can do? How can we do them? What hurts? What feels good? What do you want from me? And there's this communication that happens outside the bedroom so that once they get in the bedroom or the dungeon or wherever it is they're going, they really are able to enjoy the experience, and I think that is a lesson that we at least that I teach my clients and heterosexual couples is have the conversations, say what you're thinking, because not only will you have better sex, you'll have a better relationship.
Yes. It's so wild how aging becomes a script that we inherit, especially when it comes to pleasure.
Yes.
And let's talk about menopause. So, how does it change things, and what new possibilities can actually emerge from it?
What's super interesting is there's been research recently that showed, Lisa Mosconi has done a lot of brain MRI imaging of women going through menopause, a lot of research. And one of the things that, she's discovered is that there as women age, we have, our negativity bias goes down and our positivity bias goes up. So we start to have this kind of "I don't give a hoot" attitude. And so we decide we get to enjoy things, and there's actually a shift in the brain that is changing us to be able to feel that way. So we can really open up to enjoying everything, sex and life so much better because we've gone through these hormonal changes. Now, it's not to say it's going to be the same as it was in your 30s and 40s, but it can be better both from a physical point of view, it's different, and from an attitude point of view, because when you're embracing it rather than fearing it and rather than feeling the negativity that you're washed up, that you're old, it's just so much better. I mean, I am the happiest, when I turned 60, I was so fearful that my life wasn't where I wanted to be. I hadn't started this business. I was single and I was so afraid of it. And when I finally embraced it, I'm like, people would say, well, 60 is the new 40. And I would say, you know what? No, 60 is the new 60. Like, I'm 62 now. This is 62. This is not your mother's 62, because we can live young and vibrant and enjoyable lives.
That's so beautiful. And how do you help women move from frustration to curiosity about their changing bodies?
I think the first part is really educating them. I think there's been a lot of miseducation, particularly in the baby boomer and Gen X generation, about hormonal therapy, which I'm a huge proponent of. I'm not a clinician, I'm not a medical licensed medical provider, but I've done enough research and listened to enough doctors say the benefits of understanding, what's going on in your body, what is caused by the hormonal changes, and what you can do just medically to make yourself feel better. And so once you feel better, that just opens up a huge array of possibilities. So whether, you're going through perimenopause and you're feeling your cycles are very erratic and your moods are erratic and things are changing with your period, or you're post and you're starting to feel dryness and other symptoms related, that may or may not be related. I make sure that my all my clients are educated on hormone therapy and understanding what they can do physically, understanding that moisturizers and topical vaginal estrogen are really important for our health on many levels, not just for vulvar health, but for sexual health and for prevention of UTIs. There was just yesterday, in fact, in the United States, two uh, very prominent urologists went in front of the FDA to advocate for just topical vaginal estrogen as an over-the-counter product for women because it's so vital to our health. So understanding that what you can do to fix yourself physically or physiologically, and then we talk about what's next. Now you feel better. What can we do to get you to the next level emotionally?
Yes, there is something so liberating about flipping the script from lost evolution. And you often say that sex isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's energetic, even spiritual. Can you expand on that for us?
Well, your brain is actually your biggest sex organ. So when I mentioned before that even people who are completely paraplegic or quadriplegic can have sex, it's because your brain is what really ultimately gives you that pleasure feeling. So, you know, sex is is biopsychosocial. It's every part of you is very important to enjoying it. If your physical body feels good, but your brain is in another place, then you are not going to be able to enjoy it. But if you can get everything working in some way, and then from there have the relationship working, or even if it's the relationship with yourself, then you just feel so much better and you get to enjoy the whole process and embrace it rather than fear it.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And thank you for sharing that with our listeners. And in what ways does midlife sex require a deeper kind of intimacy with oneself?
Well, I think the thing that you I learned in all this work is that we need to accept that sex, just like everything else in our life, is not static. We change and our sex life is going to change. You're less likely to be able to meet a partner, feel wildly crazy, sexually attracted to them, hop into bed, and everybody orgasms and it's a wonderful, beautiful experience. Which, by the way, that's probably only in the movies anyway. It's more it's more that now we have, our desire becomes what we call more responsive. You may not feel it, you may not be in the mood, but over time, you develop, whether it's through physical touch or it's through things that your partner's saying to you, it will be a slower, more responsive process, but you can still enjoy it. We have to give up that idea that we're always gonna have that, like, "Oh my god, I just wanna, jump your bones," feeling all the time, and that changes over time. It's like, how do you introduce new things into your life, into your bedroom to make things more, maybe not spontaneous, but more exciting and more novel? Because women need novelty in the bedroom. That's why we get bored. That's why we leave or we stop being interested after a couple of years
Mhm.
because we need lots of novelty.
Yes, that's so powerful that you said. And also, some people feel it's too late to reignite passion or even start over. What do you say to someone holding that belief?
Can give you multiple examples of starting over again and again and again, and it goes back to the original myth that, we're done, we're washed up, that we can't. I
Mm.
mean, life is long now, we get to continue these cycles over and over, and maybe the last one wasn't so great. Well, the next one can be a little better because each one is a learning experience. It's taken me a long time to realize that all the heartbreaks and I've moved to different places. I've had a lot of different relationships. I've had my watched my kids age, and the relationship has evolved with us. And I think, if rather than looking back and regretting and being, but it could have been, or it was, I feel terrible. What Let's look at the possibility. Let's look at the potential. Let's look at what we learned. Let's not repeat the mistakes again if we can help it. And let's find the lessons and use those to move ourselves forward.
Yes, that's so so true. And thank you for sharing that with us. And also, in your practice, what you have seen, like either more men or more women are feeling that it's too late to start.
I mean, the narrative is that for women it is. I think, men feel like they have the possibility of, in terms of at least relationships, that, they can date younger women, and I will tell you that there are a lot of men who wanna date women in their 50s and 60s too. I it's never too late. I mean, I love the story I heard, and again, I don't know how racy I can be on your podcast, but I was at the hairdresser, and he was telling me about a couple that, this was in New York, and about a couple that had been coming to him from Texas for many years, and they were celebrating their 50th anniversary, and he did both the hair of the wife and the husband. And he asked the husband what he bought the wife for the 50th anniversary, and he said something like, I don't know, a ring, a diamond, whatever. And then he asked the wife, and she said, "I bought him knee pads." And he took him a minute to figure out why. It was, "Hey, like, you could be 70 years old, you just gotta modify." Right?
This is really, really so great. And what is one tiny but brave step that they could take today to reconnect with the part of themselves?
Start to learn your own body. Like,
Mm,
for a woman, take a mirror, take a look, help start to see what feels good for you. And as you age, you might need tools such as a vibrator or some lubricant or something to help. But once you know your own body and what feels good, and learn to talk about it, and maybe it's talking about it with a coach or a friend, and then you find a partner. I mean, I the partners that I attract now, especially because of the work I do, but if they can't talk about sex, and it's not like I meet them and we go into these wild orgies or anything, but it's a conversation that is super important to me, starting with the sexually transmitted infection conversation, and then to, like, what works for me and what works for them. If if you start with just the little conversation, I had a new partner recently, and he noticed, he thought I had a Band-Aid on, and it was my estrogen patch. And I had forgotten to mention, because I had it for so many years, that, like, I have a little patch on my belly because that's the way that I get my estrogen. So even just saying that is saying is expressing, like, I used to be completely embarrassed about it, and, like,
mm,
I wouldn't say anything. But now it's just a conversation that we have to have together, and if you wanna be a partner with me, you need to be able to talk about it. And so, just even if it's leaving a hint, like a new toy or a lubricant on the bedstand, or listening to a podcast, accidentally in front of your partner, just trying to have a little conversation that will lead to more and more, communication, and communication is way to is lubrication, as, to quote Emily Nurse.
yes, that message alone can change someone's entire trajectory. That desire doesn't retire; it
I
redefines.
love it. Yes, desire doesn't retire. I haven't heard that one. I'm gonna play it in your head, okay?
So this is a wonderful conversation. And if after this my listeners want to connect with you, then what's the best way?
I have a couple ways. My website is Taboo to Truth, and I actually have a brand new course I launched called Hotter, Wiser, Wilder, and it's an adult sex education course. That's available on my website, and I do have a discount code for the month of July, I guess, a birthday 30, a 30% off discount code. And then I'm on Instagram at Taboo to Truth, on YouTube at Taboo to, no, not YouTube, Taboo to Truth podcast, and on LinkedIn, you can find me under my name.
Yes, and I will make sure to attach all the details or links below so that the listeners can find them easily and get in touch with you and listen more from you because you're a wonderful person and the way you speaks, the work you do is really commendable. And to my listeners, this conversation with Karen reminds us that aging isn't the end of your story. It's the next chapter, one where your body, your voice, and your pleasure get to evolve unapologetically. If you have ever been waiting for permission to reclaim your sensuality, let this be it, because your story isn't over, and your desires still have a place at the table. So keep listening, keep loving, and above all, keep living. Until next time, stay tuned, listen to Inner Peace Better Health, and we'll meet soon.